So this is the approach that we take with our clients when we sort of get them thinking about social media and how they can move into that space comfortably. And we thought it's sort of best to take everything that social media can do and put it into an actual framework so that it's not about, as Fran said, just getting up a page on Facebook. It's about understanding how you're going to get that page on Facebook, if Facebook's the right place for you to be, and what you're going to say when you get there. So what we've come up with is the 3 C's, and there are quite a few C theories jumping around in the social media space. And they all align exactly with this central idea that it's about content, conversation, and connections. So content is, of course, about the content that you create and you're putting out there. But it also can be about curating content that's relevant to your audience and pulling in content from other people, sharing that content, and actually making it not so much about, okay, what can we put out today? I have to get something out. It's rather, that's a really interesting bit. Why don't I share that with people? I know that that's going to add value to my supplier or my end customer or my colleague. Conversation, that's exactly what social media is. The clue is in the title. It's social. So it's about creating a conversation, again, with your audience, whether it be your customer or your client or your supplier, whoever it is, and not controlling. So going back to the example of friends that just get a page on Facebook, a lot of people that we've seen who do just get a page on Facebook, it's about controlling what goes out there, and it's about broadcasting and saying, this is exactly what I want to say, and that's where I'm focused, and that's what I'm going to do. Whereas with this, it's conversation. It's listening to what people want to talk about and what people want to hear about. And that ties right into connections. It's about building relationships, which especially in B2B, we all know, is the secret to the success. It's in the relationships, it's in the business relationships, and making sure that those count. So, keeping these 3 C's in mind, we'll take a look at now a few examples of best practice, specifically in financial services to start, and then we'll kind of go broader scope and look at B2B as a whole and kind of learn what we can take from there. All of these examples that we've chosen, each one of them exemplify the 3 C's, and that's exactly why we've chosen them, because we think that that exemplifies being best practice, is thinking about these 3 C's and incorporating them. So keep that in mind. I'm not going to go through every single 3C for every single example, but I will highlight a few of them that really do stick out. So the first one, consumer side, I'm sure quite a few have heard of it, and if not, do check out First Direct's digital presence, because it really is quite engaging. They've done a really excellent job of building the idea of an online community for their customers, specifically because they're customers, so making their customers feel special. Few ways they've done that is they've moved into where the customers are, so on the traditional media, like Twitter on the top left-hand corner there. Another example that they've done is they've created a page called the Little Black Book page, which is essentially just a network of users outside of being financial service customers, so sharing sort of local secrets, top tips, things like that, and kind of building that camaraderie between their customers. The bottom left-hand corner there is just a page on their home site that sort of pulls everything together, pulls together all of their content, connects it all to all the other spaces, and really sort of starts to curate the content and the conversations that are happening. My favorite part of what First Direct does is this larger slide here, and this is basically just it's a one page, and it pulls in all of the customer feedback. It's a page strictly dedicated to being customer feedback, positive and negative. So First Direct publishes it all, and again, going back to Howard's point about trust, this is where it's built, in being transparent and being honest and saying, we want to do the best we can for you, so tell us how we're doing, and be brutally honest. Another example of another consumer side brand doing it well is Barclaycard. What I like about them is that A, they've brought sort of their offline online by using TV commercials and bringing that into the digital space, but they've also, on their Facebook page, this is just one aspect of their Facebook content. The other content that they have involves music, it involves pretty much any interest that is specific to this audience that they've targeted, and they've said this is the type of group we want to be on Facebook with. So they've used the content that their users in this space would already be interested in, and they've used that as sort of a foot in the door to say, we get it, we like music too, and they've taken it a step further to say, we like it, we're with you, we're on your team, we have the same interests, why don't you align with us? And moving into the point of the connection, they've also obviously spread it into other spaces, and everything just digitally links together. Moving now into more business side of it, A few people might know Philip Calvert in this room. I'm not sure if they do. He does come from a financial services marketing background. But this past year, he's really made it his remit to be able to educate and bring the financial services into social media. And he does his best, and he does a pretty good job of leading by example. So this is his homepage, and again, it sort of curates all the conversations, curates the content, lets people know what's going on, connects to all the other spaces. He has a presence on LinkedIn, so he's, again, creating the community aspect of it, getting conversations going. But what's really interesting is that he has a very popular Twitter page. And in our research, Twitter barely came up. And if it did, people said, I have no idea how to use it, and I only have 140 characters. How can I actually get a message across and still be restricted by the FSA? So what he's done is, again, he's sort of recognized, okay, there are restrictions. I don't have to send my message specifically in that route. I can sidestep that. And how else can I support my customers and my clients and the people that I want to help educate and engage? What sort of message can I come across that doesn't get tied up in the restrictions? So if you have a chance, he's a really good one to follow and just sort of start to pick up the messages that he's getting out there. An example of somebody who's using it without being in the traditional spaces is HSBC, and it's kind of tying back to the first direct example as well, is they're doing a great job of, for their business customers, building a community, and not necessarily because they're business customers, but because they're business people. So this pulls together an entire community of business owners in the UK, and it allows them to share comments, there's forums, users can upload videos, users can watch video. It's basically just a resource for business owners in the UK to come together and start to learn and develop. And HSBC really just has to get the platform up there and then take a step back and say, we're providing this for you because, customer or not, we know that as a business person in the UK, you're going to have questions. And who better to learn from than your peers? And as leaders in this industry, we'll set this up for you. Another great example of using, going back to the traditional media, is the traditional digital media, is LV. And they do sort of a B2C and B2B kind of combo. But what's most interesting here, and I'll just touch on this main point, is their use of video. And a lot of people that we did research, obviously 55% of them used it personally to watch videos, but a lot of them also said, if I could just watch the content that comes in on my email newsletters, if I could just watch that in like a 2-minute video, that would be way easier for me than having to click through my emails and figure out what I need to know. So LV does a great job of providing content on their YouTube page that their customers can come look to and say, you know what, I'm going to share that because that's really helpful. And if I share that with my client, they're going to think that I'm really clued in because I found this for them and I thought of them and I gave it to them. So it's a little bit keep in touch, it's a little bit establishing yourself as a thought leader, and it's a little bit curating that content. And it does kind of tie in all 3 C's in one fell swoop. And I've sort of touched on it briefly with the other examples, but this is a good example to actually physically show you that each page digitally links to each other. So there are the connections, obviously making the connection with your users, but there's the connections of connecting all of your content. So that if somebody comes to the YouTube page and they think, that's really useful, how else, like what else does LV have out there? They don't have to go to Google and search LV. They can just say, oh, I'll open up their Twitter link. Oh, I'll open up their Facebook page. It's all connected and it's all linked in, so that it kind of builds that community again. So that's for the financial services, and there are quite a few good examples in there, but we wanted to see what else we could pull from other people that are out there. IT services, now, they're probably pretty innately in tune to being digitally active and digitally aware anyways, but Cisco does obviously a very great job of it. They're present in the mainstream spaces. They're present on their blog. Their blog has incredible content that people love to share all the time. And they've also created their own space dedicated to business customers. And again, each space is linked to each other. You can see here their Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, everything sits on their homepage and spreads out, and everything outwards spreads in, as you can see there. McKinsey Quarterly, again, Howard brought them up as well. They are a great resource that everybody knows and everybody, I'm sure, in this room loves. What they do, what I'm really impressed with them, is that you wouldn't really expect McKinsey Quarterly to be on Facebook and be popular on Facebook or Twitter. And you think, really, their audience probably isn't on Facebook because they're targeting sort of the management level C-suite businesses. But they have almost 100,000 followers on Facebook right now. And within about 2 hours of posting content, they have at least 100 likes on their content, which means people have read it, they've acknowledged it, and they think that it's useful. So that means that A, their audience is there, and B, their audience is being engaged and being active and finds their content useful. And again, with Twitter, they do the same thing. They're active there, and their audience is there. Their audience is engaging with them. They link back and forth. They share content between each other, and it's a really great way to just make sure that you are being aware and being present to your audience. This is an example, and I didn't put them in just because they're Canadian, but they are. What I really, really think is interesting about them is that it's about supply chain management. And I don't know how many people here are excited by supply chain management, but I'm not really. And what's so interesting about them is that they have turned supply chain management content into engaging, relevant, and even fun content. They started with their blog, and they thought, we'll just get some of our own thoughts up there. We'll start leading that way and see how it goes. People enjoyed their blog so much that they then said, can I contribute? Can I send you a blog? So it started to become a group blog. And this group blog then moved into being an actual supply chain management community. And again, going back to the idea of HSBC, where it's more, we'll give you the resource, and then we'll step back and let you find your way. That's sort of what they've done, is they provided this resource. They still are a part of it on a daily basis, but it's now more about networking and sharing ideas than them actually doing it themselves. And in terms of being fun, who here has seen Casino or The Usual Suspects or any movies like that? What does that have to do with supply chain management? Kevin Pollak. Kevin Pollak was in both of those movies and plenty more, and Kinaxis has actually been able to get him to do a series of videos on supply chain management. So that is something that would draw somebody like myself, who has no idea and doesn't really care that much about supply chain management, to their site, to their content, and share it with people.